Hey, good morning. It's 9:43 a.m. on May 26, 2020. In July of last year, there was a report submitted by an organization called the Army Futures Command to the Small Business Committee of the Senate. They were addressing it directly to the Maryland senator. And I read the report and had other things going on at the time and thought that really what was going on is they were trying to launder through the Small Business Administration black ops or covert operations that they intended to use to create and exacerbate ongoing domestic unrest. I had suspected, specifically due to the allocation of the distribution of the primary operational centers within the United States that were a part of the Army Futures Command, that it may have been something that had come from or as a result of Operation Jade Helm that occurred in 2015. Now, I was out of the country during the time that Operation Jade Helm occurred, and I had a little bit of information about Operation Urban Shield, which was going on in the West Coast prior to me leaving. But one of the things that they said about Operation Jade Helm is that because people were concerned about civil rights, that they had civilians that were a part of various administrations observing the military to make sure they didn't encroach upon anybody's civil rights. I don't think that's what happened. I think that people that lack any sort of concept of an accountability to a military chain of command took it upon themselves to observe tactics and techniques that the government was demonstrating or was allegedly practicing in these soft ops operations exercises and decided that they would use them themselves. That they would take some of the things they learned and they would try to make them a little fluffier and a little nicer, and that they would try to implement them on the ground, so to speak. And now we've had this sort of recomportment of the specifically social services sector, but other sectors. And in correlation with the complete unwillingness of anybody to talk about what's actually going on with the crypto economy and with what could potentially be seen as what I would call the narcoization of the country. And indeed the world, this understanding that we're supposed to normalize to accepting that playing gangster and then taking things that used to be illegal and getting them legitimized somehow is considered a social good and or somehow is considered some form of restitution for previous eras of mischaracterizing people around a variety of different things is actually part and parcel with how those soft ops actually end up playing out. And that the point of it is really to assure that our democratic institutions, whereby we actually have access to redress, or rather how we can actually engage in manners of political participation within our own country, are completely undermined and subsumed. Now, if you look at the CARES Act right now, you will notice that there is almost a 500% difference between what is allotted for the program administration of the Small Business Administration and what is actually going to be and what has actually been made available to alleged small businesses. My contention is that what's happening right now is that whether or not people are apprised of it directly on that level, that when people are applying for this small business assistance relief, that their applications are being turned into futures contracts, and that they are technically and literally being derivated into militarized processes that have the intention of using their small businesses, including the people within their small businesses and the human capital associated with the people in those small businesses, for ops, right? Whether we're talking about domestically or internationally. And with the refusal of anybody to address the manner in which people domestically have been engaged in these proxies that leverage their ability to get away with cutting corners and breaking laws and not doing things the right way within their own milieu because they understand that they're able to get a side deal or able to get something special for another group or another realm that they're connected to by virtue of what they're doing there. What they've done is actually engaged themselves in a process of ever increasing levels of risk that they can't control. And so now is coming the psyop that's actually the extortion. Because when and how are you going to say that your small business is not available to be used for illicit purposes by operators claiming they have the color of military to support them? When and how are you going to be able to say the dirty politicians in DC or whatever your state capital is or downtown that have a whole bunch of comprehensive surveillance on you constantly can just decide arbitrarily whether or not they want to use your acquisition or your attempt to get resources for your small business or your community as a way to hustle a bid on a contract in another country that may be completely against everything you stand for? If we don't start doing this now, then by the end of the summer, we're not going to be able to. Now, this report that was submitted by the Army Futures Command was from the middle of July this year, July 17th, last year, July 17th of 2019. And they've been very good at making their benchmarks. I mean, let me report that. Let me reconfigure that. You've been very good at making their benchmarks. So I'm making one today. I'm letting you know that I am advising you as somebody that has been used for covert and illicit operations that violate the Constitution of the United States of America, that the Army Futures Command is a terrorist organization. It is a domestic terrorist organization. There are people within this country that are acting as if they have the authority of the United States military to visit ops on their own people and try to set up their own people in order to try to get them to agree to commit acts of sedition. The problem is it's gone too far, boys and girls. It's not acceptable